Presented by Edge Radio.
Let's start off things with Madam Web. So, to put things into perspective, me and Quam here actually went to go see it about like a week ago, no less. And from what we can tell, it. Well, I can't give a good enough answers for my brain at the moment because it's got a few things that I want to say. So, what did you think of it, Quam?
Well, maybe I'll start off with the things I did like because there's probably going to be a lot shorter of a segment than the things I didn't like. So it did get a few good chuckles out of me. I thought some of the cinematography was nice. When the different Spider-Man characters are fighting, they start with these shots that are upside down and they rotate all around. Kind of felt like a Doctor Strange how they filmed that. And apart from that, that's probably all I liked with it. I think.
Camera angles and action work, you reckon?
Yeah, and
I'd have to agree with you on some degree there, yeah.
even them were few and far between, though. I think probably most of the comedy didn't hit, and some of the camera work was awful.
Yeah, I believed, personally for me, the camera work was a lot too, I don't know, shaky, I guess, for one of the combat scenes, or when you're trying to observe, I don't know, Spider-Man or Spider-Women doing their agility, their move sets, and you're trying to appreciate that when it's just shaky screen. It's a
Yeah,
little hard to process that, you know?
yeah, absolutely. I think.
Or am I just the only one who thinks that?
Well, I think you hit a really good point with the combat in this movie, and they seem to have these flash transitions constantly. But yeah, I would say this is one of the worst superhero movies I've seen in quite some time. Um, and there just really wasn't anything that
And it's
made it good. They really just seemed like they didn't care. You mentioned the reshoots, but the reshoots were so obvious in the film. They would say one thing, one scene, and then they would change their opinion or their relationships in the very next scene. It just I thought I missed stuff, and I never went to the bathroom or anything during watching it. I thought,
no, we
where did
never
that come from?
we that was we admittedly on my behalf, some things you could just I guess not imagine in something like as such of a big franchise or not more like a property for Spider-Man, really.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, like in one scene, Madam Web is calling Ben her boyfriend, but in the very previous scene, they have no relationship whatsoever. It was just odd and all stitched together in a very horrible way.
Oh,
If you're going to do reshoots, make it worth our while. Why would you go back and reshoot something that just doesn't make sense?
I must have misheard something because I was under the impression that they were only just work partners in the movie.
Uh, when they go to that barbecue, someone says, "Oh, your boyfriend, Uncle Ben."
Oh, okay,
Um,
okay. I know which one you're talking about.
um, so it was just strung together. Her relationship with her mother, I think that got the best laugh out of us.
I
Um,
can agree personally on that one. And there, I think we didn't hear any previous, like, any story, like, elements to suggest that would be the case. And so I guess that's why it must have got us a chuckle really that loud.
yeah, it was just thrown at the wall.
Yeah,
We're an hour into the movie, I think, when they show that scene.
yeah, yeah.
There
That's
was
right.
nothing leading up to or
Nothing
to indicate
exactly
she hated her mum or anything, or her mum hated her. It was just,
confusing.
yeah. I will say, my other favorite part was the Pepsi promotions
So,
throughout.
okay, I will say that one that's a good one, and also the Mountain Dew sponsorships that they s- try not to do in the movie, but it's everywhere.
Yeah, there was nothing subtle about this product placement.
It was almost like a Michael Bay movie with the product placement.
I would say it was worse, probably. It was like, I don't know if you've ever seen Wayne's World where they hold something up the screen and start talking about
Like
product
Pizza
placement.
Hut or Pepsi.
Yeah, it felt that bad. The final scene, we're
Should we?
working
Oh,
up to this battle.
should we even spoil it, or do you think it's like not even worth it at that point?
I don't think it's worth it.
All right, let's go for it.
Well, okay, the final battle scene. This is the giant arc of the movie, and it's under a huge Pepsi sign.
They're like, all hope seems lost for our heroes kind of gist. And like, she, out of nowhere, and I'm not sure if this is part of the comics at all, but she somehow splits into three, like, ghost-like entities and starts helping out the other Spider Women. Now, keep that in mind for me because that's something we need to talk about. And somehow they are fighting in the middle of a Pepsi sign, and it somehow breaks, taking Madam Web's like future seeing advantage and all that type of stuff, right?
In this entire movie, the Pepsi sign is what defeats the villain. It's amazing.
So moral of the story, product placement is the way to go for your Sony movie, kids.
That's right. It had the Pepsi sign probably had a better story arc than the actual hero, Madam Web. It was amazing. So I'm waiting on the prequel, the Pepsi sign movie.
Where's Pepsi Man's appearance?
That's right. Yeah. And this movie is completely bombed in the box office, but after seeing the product placement just everywhere throughout, I don't think they care. I think they probably made their money already. I would be curious to how much they did make on
that's a good
product
question.
placement.
And another thing I wanted to talk about was the other three Spider Women of this movie, which, for the most part, aren't kind of really a thing, if I have to be honest with you.
Yeah, they're supporting characters, but we're essentially shown all these flash forwards, I guess. Flashback forwards. I don't know if that's a word or a phrase.
That's the best way I could put it. Really.
Yeah, of them fighting in future, and I think that was probably a reshoot. I think they got to the end of the movie, and someone said, "There's not one costume in this entire superhero movie. What are we gonna do?" And so they inserted these scenes.
And in the final product, it's not until the very last scene of the movie we actually get to see all four women dress up in their so respected comic book outfit counterparts.
Yeah, it was just odd. I think it was very much a reshoot, and I don't think a good one either.
Coming back to Morbius, I think it's just as odd as that, then putting Michael Keaton's Vulture from the MCU into that movie in the post-credits, if that makes sense.
Yeah. It was just they put it in because they know we'd go, wow, that's a cool looking costume.
Yep,
and they were pretty decent looking costumes. I thought, they're cool. They should have been there, but it just seemed like no one cared, I think.
Spider-Man movie of all time so far.
Yeah.
Which is kind of saying a lot, if I have to rudely interrupt you there, sorry.
No, that's fine. I didn't think the Amazing Spider-Man movies were very good. There's Morbius I didn't think was great. And yeah, this is, out of the 10 movies, I think this is probably the worst we've seen. It's almost impressive.
It's saying a lot, really.
Absolutely. I mean, when we went, there were 3 people at the cinemas. 2 of them were us. It was, this is a box office bomb completely. And I do kind of think, if I spent 80 million of my dollars, that was the budget of this movie, I would be I would be awake every night wondering how to make this movie perfect. I would be, $80 million.
Day out.
Yeah, absolutely. You think someone should be responsible for at least caring about this product? It just seemed that no one was.
Yeah, it almost really does seem like it. It's just, if that is the case, then it is sad. Then the future for us Marvel fans or superhero fans in general, really,
yeah, it's definitely not Madam Web in time.
Definitely not Madam Web in time.
Yeah, I think this movie will probably, we might wrap it up here. I think this movie will probably fade into obscurity.
or will it fade as memeingly as Morbius? If that's even a word.
Maybe. I think Jared Leto's always been an interesting character, and that's probably what made Morbius the concept interesting. I think it was a terrible movie.
Oh, I guess you've got that pointed there. Jared Leto does kind of hold that movie as bad as people say it is, I guess.
Yeah, he's always just been interesting. I don't even know if he's a great. I've seen him do really well on some things. House of Gucci is great in. Other things he's been awful in, such as Suicide Squad, and Morbius. I don't think he was great in. So yeah, it's an interesting one. I think this movie does have some memeing potential. I've seen some online.
Oh yeah, I've seen my fair share of them too.
Yeah, but I think within a year we'll just
Forget about it.
Yeah, absolutely. There's not much to remember really.
No, not at all.
So before we wrap this segment up, Lochie, have you got any more conclusions with this movie?
Well, I guess what we previously said, it's not Madam Web in time is my conclusion to this statement.
That's a good conclusion. We'll be back right after this break with a segment on Kenny vs. Spenny, maybe the greatest reality show ever to exist.
And we'll be right back.
So we're now moving on to talk about Kenny vs. Spenny. It's a Canadian reality show. It hasn't been around on TV for a while. It aired between 2003 to 2010.
So quite nostalgic for us, the 2000s guys, if you will. But I guess not so much since we only had to grow up past the 2000s for that show, I guess.
Absolutely. I've always been a big reality show buff, and I think this is probably some other people that have loved it, some other people have hated it.
Really?
Yeah.
Negative reception.
Yeah, very few, but some
But that is understandable because it does have to take in a lot of a strong stomach, if you will.
Definitely. It features two friends and they compete in a series of competitions against one another. And the loser of each competition is then forced to do a humiliation of the other's choice. And some of these episodes and some of these humiliations, you definitely have to have a strong stomach to watch. If you're into that crass sort of humor, you'll probably love it. There's some of these humiliations I don't think I can even mention on air.
No, we cannot.
They're that bad. So, what do you think of the show, Lochie? You're a big fan?
Well, like you said, you've introduced me to it about I'd say about a few months ago, or maybe half a year ago now. And I've actually quite enjoyed the show. I've had some great laughs, of course, and well, I find the dynamic duo, if you will, to be quite charming in each of their own rights.
Yeah, I think that's of course, the title of the show is Kenny vs. Spenny, and really the show is about their dynamic, and they're almost two polar opposite characters.
That almost feels like they have to live with each other, but in real life, they're really close friends.
Yeah, absolutely. So Kenny is almost like a living demon, I would probably describe.
He is a demon.
He's the one who cheats through all the competitions. And Spenny is he's a bit of a weak-willed character, but he's honest. He's kind of the nice guy, I guess.
He's a nice guy.
Sometimes that doesn't work out too well for him.
I find both of them to have their own, well, I guess this wouldn't be the right term for it, but morals or standards when it comes to their sides of points of views of the competition.
Absolutely. I think
because they give a lot of intake of how they feel when it comes to the competitions they do and the aftermaths of the humiliations for the contestants and whatnot. So
absolutely. I think sometimes you get wrapped up in one character and then they'll they'll show something awful or something great happening to the other, and you switch sides. You almost have to in a lot of these situations that they present. And they do a great job of kind of balancing it out of who's the most likable and who you don't like.
Yeah, that's right. It is true.
And is there a favorite episode you've seen at all, Lochie?
Well, the episodes themselves, I will say for the viewers at home that they can range from the simplest of things to the most weirdest of things. And I believe one of the competitions that they had to do was who can not blink the longest.
Yeah, they do a
Am I
series
correct
of.
on that?
I think that's they do a series of mini competitions in one of the episodes, and I think that's part of it.
Oh, okay. But I haven't seen it in quite a while, so I have to catch back up to it.
Yeah, but you're absolutely right. Some episodes are as simple as who can lose the most weight. Some segments are, who can stare the longest. And then they have
Stay awake the longest.
Then they have other insane episodes such as who can wear a dead octopus on your head the longest. It's really this weird balance between insanity and normalcy. Absolutely. I think my favorite episode is probably who can wear the dead octopus on your head the longest. It's just such an insane show. And you just think, where is this going? And where it goes is, spoilers, but Kenny essentially spikes our friend Spenny with a series of hallucinating drugs.
Ooh.
And we then watch a man with a dead octopus on his head lose his mind for the last 15 minutes or so of this episode. And there is this idea that maybe some of it's fake, some of it's real.
That's definitely a thought that has occurred to me multiple times.
Absolutely. I think sometimes it kind of ruins the magic to question that. I think, though, I don't necessarily think they're acting. I think they're just playing up to the audience and playing up to the cameras
Which they
in
very
front
well
of them.
could be.
Absolutely.
But if not, then crops to them, really. Or props, I should say. What's crops? I'm not cropping a garden.
Yeah. I think to this day it's probably one of my favorite reality shows. I think it's far outweighs any other, and I think it's one that friendly dynamic. It's got a huge comedy. They're both comedians, so it's comedy bits throughout.
Yeah, it's certainly one of the better reality shows, if not any better than, well, I hate to say it, anything that we get at all, anything these days.